So what happens at the PSI or pre-sentence interview? We spent a lot of time talking about how to prepare for the PSI, but what happens when you actually get there? So in normal circumstances, we would go to the probation office in the United States courthouse. And by we, I mean my client and I. We show up at the probation office. Now, we've already provided them with our completed probation packet, with our narrative, all of our character letters, and all of the supporting documents, any kind of certificates, and all of the mitigating information that we want probation to have before we get to the interview. This significantly shortens the amount of time that we have to spend with the probation officer, and it allows them to copy and paste from what we've provided and put it right into the report so that they are putting our language or your language into the report. So what happens when we get there is we are greeted by the probation officer. We're taken back into either their office or a conference room, depending upon the office that you're in. And then they will just go through the information with you. It's a very informal setting. Generally, they're wearing a polo shirt and some sort of trousers or, something pretty casual. I wear a suit. I would recommend that you wear a suit or something somewhat professional looking. You want to present your best self to the probation officer. You want to go in with a really friendly attitude. Pretend that you are going to see someone that you really, really want to impress. So you want to be on your best behavior, make eye contact with the person. Don't be defensive in any way, not that there's any reason to be. And then when they ask you questions, they're just going to follow up on all of the information that you've previously provided. When I am there with my client, which I always am, if they ask follow-up questions that are answered in the narrative that you've provided, I will just point them to that information. Hopefully they will have read everything before we get there, but that's not always the case. So sometimes I have to remind them, hey, he took a lot of time writing that letter. It's in the report. So take a look at it, or it's in the narrative, take a look at it, and that'll answer all your questions. Sometimes they surprise me and they ask great follow-up questions that we may not have thought of that provide them with even more great information about you. So this is really your opportunity to shine, to make a great impression, to make the probation officer like you and want to make a really good recommendation for you. And I've seen this happen very frequently where the probation officer, you have an option of maybe doing it via Zoom or in person or on the phone or in person. And I've had probation officers say, thank you so much for bringing him in. This was great, because they really get a sense of who you are as a person. So I always like to do it in person, if at all possible. If it's something that's just really not going to make a difference or move the dial because we already have a great offer on the table, it may not be as important, but it's always nice to get a good recommendation from the probation officer in the report. So again, just to recap, we go to the probation office in the U.S. courthouse. We have a conversation with the probation officer, either in their office or in a conference room. I'm sitting right next to you the entire time. If you don't know the answer to questions or if there are additional documents that they want, you can always get back to them. Either send the documents to me, provide the information to me, and I forward it to the probation officer. Oftentimes, the probation officer will give you their card and say, you can send it directly to me. That's no problem. And it's not going to be anything that they're going to use against you. It may be a certificate that you forgot or a tax return that you forgot. But generally speaking, it is a very pleasant experience. Most people walk out of the probation interview or PSI or pre-sentence interview feeling pretty good about it. Then it usually takes 2 to 3 weeks before I will get the report, at which time I will send it to you so you can review it. We go over it together. You tell me if there's anything that's incorrect or if you have any objections. And that's it. It's a really simple, straightforward part of your case. There shouldn't be any mystery around it. It's just a meeting. So if you have any questions about the pre-sentence interview, my contact information is in the description below. And if you or a loved one are charged or under investigation for a crime in California, in state court, or anywhere in the country in federal court, call me.